guys, and welcome to this week's video. This week I decided to try out some new art supplies, and I thought I'd recreate some sketches that I've been trying out from a TV show called Sabrina, which is on Netflix. It's a really interesting TV show. I'm kind of really enjoying it at the moment. I can't wait for the next season, and I thought I'd do a little bit of fan art while testing out some new supplies. A lot of people have been asking me to try some gouache. I've always pronounced it gouache, but apparently I've been pronouncing it wrong all my life. And instead I've got to sound like Goofy and say gouache. That was an awful impression. Anyway, so I have never really tried gouache before. It's something that I've always wanted to try, and when I got a really cheap set, I just couldn't get on with it. And someone recommended that I tried out this set, which was fairly within a decent budget. I actually picked it up from Amazon. I'll leave an Amazon affiliate link down below if you are interested in trying out a new art supply that you've never tried before. And someone said that this was a good mix of acrylic and watercolors, so it was more opaque than watercolors, but not quite as difficult to work with as acrylic. And since I've been playing around a lot with acrylic lately, especially when I was doing my dice box and when I was doing acrylic board painting, I figured I might try this out and see how I get on with it. Now, acrylics are really good for when I'm working on canvas or when I'm working on a wooden material. Watercolors are really good for working on paper, and gouache is a little bit more opaque than watercolors, and you don't have to build up as many layers. It's not as forgiving as watercolors, but it's sort of like a happy medium. It's not as harsh as acrylics, but it's not as soft as watercolors. I've seen a lot of people get some really beautiful results with this, and I just really wanted to try it out. And I've wanted to try this sort of like bold illustration with Sabrina. I really like the red colours that she wears in contradiction with her white hair, and I like this sort of like bold contrast. So I tried to use a very limited palette when it came to this. And overall, my general consensus, I think I like gouache. I don't know. I think I prefer overall watercolours, but there's some stuff that I can achieve with gouache that I can't achieve with watercolours. I got the skin tone perfectly the first try without even having to mix up a load of colours, and that felt fantastic to do because sometimes I really do struggle to get skin tones down, especially with watercolours. So gouache can be something that I probably will end up using a lot with watercolours. I am going to be doing a lot more gouache practice in my sketchbooks, so when my sketchbook tour comes out later, hopefully in the next month or two, if I manage to finish the sketchbook, you're going to see a lot more gouache paintings in there. I really wanted to try it out, and like I said, this paint box was not that expensive. For a pack of 24, I believe this, when I got this was on offer, so it was only £10, and I used an Amazon voucher to get this. And do you know, I'm really glad I got it, because I tried a pack from the works a while ago and I didn't like it, so I ended up giving it away, because sometimes I feel like you need to try art supplies to find out whether or not they're for you. I know that oils aren't for me, so it's particularly why I won't buy oils or why I won't work with oils, simply because they just don't work with me. It doesn't work with the kind of thing that I want to do. And I know some people will say you have to try out different art supplies to see whether or not you like them. I've used oils in the past and I never really got on with them. They work really beautifully with me for portraits, but I don't have the time, well, I don't really have the space to work with oils. I have a cat who likes to sit on my desk a lot, so I need a fast drying medium, and since she's a house cat, she likes to sit on my desk when I'm working sometimes, and oils, unfortunately, they just don't work in that sort of environment. If I had a studio place, I probably would try out oils again in the future, but I think gouache and acrylic and watercolours are probably the best for me. So I do understand that some people will be like, well, why try gouache if you're already using acrylics and watercolours? I think sometimes we need different mediums for different works. I can't exactly use watercolours properly on canvas, and unless it's like specifically watercolour canvas, and acrylics don't really behave in the same way as watercolors. So it's kind of like sometimes you need specific mediums to work with specific things, and since sometimes I think that I can't get the color I want with watercolors, that gouache will be able to help me achieve a better pigment overall. Do I think I'll be switching from watercolors to gouache? Probably not anytime soon, simply because I like the work that I've achieved with watercolors so far. I think I've gotten much more comfortable with it. If I was probably to switch over, it would take me quite a while to get practicing with it. I think this is good for really bold illustrations. I like that the pigment I can get with it. I just don't personally think that it's for me for bigger illustrations. I like a lot of textures, so that's why I end up using a lot of mediums. There's not much to really talk about this piece, if I'm honest. It's just a simple character design piece. I was trying to invoke something that I really liked about the show. I liked the colour palette that Sabrina has, and one thing that I really did like was how different the two whites were in here. I had a titanium white and I believe the other one was china white, and I didn't think there was going to be much difference between them because I don't really tend to use a lot of white in my illustrations, especially when it comes to watercolour. I don't tend to use the white palette a lot. But this was really nice to see because the white I ended up using was the titanium white, and it was very different from the background white, and I thought this was really interesting to see. Like I said, I never really had a massive amount of experience with traditional medium apart from when I was in secondary school. When we were in secondary school and we were practicing with art supplies, I ended up doing 3D art, so I ended up doing a lot of sculptural pieces using Mod Podge and clay and using Mod Rock as well, and wire. So I ended up doing a lot of wire sculptures, and a lot of the things I ended up doing was 3D art in general. I think my last time I used oils in general was about 10, maybe 12 years ago, and I knew then I didn't like the medium. I enjoyed working with acrylics, but I couldn't get it to behave the way I wanted. And watercolours I never really got on with back then, but I've been pushing myself to work with them more because there's stuff that you can achieve with some traditional mediums that you can't achieve with others. Markers are really bold and they're really bright and really colourful, but unfortunately a lot of that medium isn't light fast, so if you are after a light fast medium you're going to want professional paints, and yes, we can't always afford professional materials, so sometimes you have to go with student grade materials to practice with before you go and use professional grade. Now a lot of people will say that professional grade equipment is the best way to learn, but unfortunately if you get a lot of professional equipment and then you find out that the medium isn't for you, sometimes it's not worth the investment. If I like gouache with my practice that I will end up doing, if I like using it more and more, I may invest in it. But right now I've got my watercolours and I'm really happy with those at the moment. If I like this more, maybe I'll invest in the professional grade. I don't know. It's a lot of money to sink into art supplies, and that's the one major problem I do have sometimes with traditional medium, is that you want to try everything out but you can't necessarily afford everything, and that's why sometimes art subscription boxes are great because you do get a little bit of each art supply to try out. And I'm a firm believer in that you don't know something works for you until you really try it, and that can be quite difficult. So when you are in schools and you have access to these materials, use them, because this might be your best bet to find out then and there whether or not a piece of equipment will work for you. So in the future I will probably end up using gouache again. As I said, I'm going to be practicing my sketchbook, and I'm probably going to need a few suggestions for ideas for that. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comments section down below. And is there an art supply that you simply can't live without? I used to say that I was just a marker person. I'd swear by alcohol markers, but then again I don't use the most expensive markers on the market simply because I don't like most expensive markers on the market. it. That's just a personal preference. That's just simply because I've never really been able to afford the most expensive markers in the market, especially the disposable. I know you can refill them, but I was never able to afford the pen and the refill. It was always just the one thing, and when I saved up that money to be able to buy one marker a month, and then only to quickly discover that I really did not like them, it wasn't the medium for me. I think with traditional medium, there is a lot of mistakes that can happen, and when you're kind of training yourself to look into the material and how it works, I ended up watching a lot of videos and watching a lot of streams of people using gouache to try and see how they worked it, and I noticed that a lot of people watered it down a little bit, so that it was a little bit more viscous, so that you could use it almost like a more pigmented watercolor in that sort of sense. But it's, like I said, it's interesting. I think you might see more gouache videos. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think for one of my first attempts with gouache that I did an okay job, or is there any tips that you guys have that you could possibly pass on to help me improve and help others improve? I know there's quite a few people who have expertise in different mediums, and I'm always interested to see what people think. And if you have an illustration that you have done that you're really proud of, what materials have you used? I'm always excited to see what artists like and dislike about different materials. I think it's good to have an opinion and to almost like research, and I don't know, it's interesting to see what everyone's opinion is about different materials. There's some people who swear by oils, there's some people who swear by acrylics, some people who swear by digital, some people who swear by traditional. I'm just happy to try out different things. I'm glad I moved over to being more of a traditional artist than a digital. There's still stuff that I miss about digital art, which I'm slowly but learning that all over again. But it's nice to be on this journey and trying out different things. And I liked these. These were good paints. I'm really glad I tried gouache again, because the original palette paints I had were not good. So this is the overall piece. I'm kind of happy with this. I really like the bold colours in this. I've learned a lot for next time that I will apply to future illustrations. And if you want to see more gouache videos in the future, let me know in the comment section down below. I always like to hear what you guys think and what your different opinions could be. It's always interesting to see what everyone thinks about certain supplies. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Maybe like, comment down below, and subscribe if you're new. But as always, folks, stay creative.